Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome here to the launch pad, or maybe good evening or good afternoon, depending where you're joining us from. Joining us for our live launch coverage of SpaceX BADR-8 launching from Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. We're going live here just now under an hour from launch. One, to get used to going live a little bit earlier before launches. Normally, we would be working to have our own live pad shot at this time, but excuse me, we are currently monitoring weather conditions down at the pad. SpaceX multiple times this evening has slipped the T0, and we're waiting for more updates from them as we continue throughout tonight's countdown. SpaceX now targeting 12:30 a.m. Eastern Time for the launch of Arabsat BADR-8 from Slick 40. So on your screen, you're looking at two live views of weather, one from NASA Kennedy Space Center, the other from the Space Force monitoring screen there. The blinking light that you're seeing on the right screen, that says hail on it. We are currently in a lightning watch, a phase 1 lightning watch in the region, but not a lightning warning. We can launch during a lightning watch, but not a warning, so we'll be keeping a close eye on that. We are about 13 miles from the pad, and it has been raining for many hours, but we haven't heard any thunder since late this afternoon, and not seeing much lightning on the radar as well. So keeping a close eye on that as we continue throughout tonight's countdown. If we are going to go for a launch attempt at 12:30 a.m. Eastern Time, in about 20 minutes' time, is when we expect to have a go no go from SpaceX Mission Control to begin propellant loading. Once we do have the control nets, we will patch those in and listen in to Mission Control. If it's your first time here, though, welcome. Make sure you engage that subscribe button. If you can, take a moment, hit the like, and share out the stream as well, as we'll be staying live throughout today's launch attempt. If you want to know more about today's mission, you can go to the detailed mission briefing in the description below. And of course, it is a launch day, so use promo code LAUNCHDAY and get 10% off everything over at the Launchpad store. We're going to be beginning our commentary coverage once we have a go for propellant load, and we'll be counting through that, so stay with us right here on the launch pad as we continue to monitor weather as we count down to the launch of SpaceX BADR-8 from Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome here to the Launchpad. We are currently live on YouTube, but also on Twitter. We are trying out a new idea here on the Launchpad of doing some pre-launch Twitter spaces, getting to talk a bit about the payload, the rockets, and everything as we continue to count, especially when we have some of these scrubs. So if you're watching on YouTube and you're not following us over on Twitter, TLPN_official, links in the description in the chat as well. Feel free to join us over there. We're going to be answering your guys' comments and questions as always, so you can tag us on YouTube and Twitter, and we'll be answering those live as we continue to count down adjusted new T0 that we just got from SpaceX, now targeting 12:45 a.m. Eastern Time for launch here today. And we are continuing to monitor the current weather conditions ahead of tonight's launch attempt. The launch window today runs all the way to 1:32 a.m. So at this rate, they are going to be kind of threading that needle. Can't see too many more of these pushbacks in the timeline for tonight to be able to actually see a successful launch. But if it's your first time here on YouTube or Twitter, welcome. My name's Zach. I'm the founder and host here at the Launchpad Network, and here at TLP, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together. We're glad to have you joining us here. If you're watching on YouTube, you're seeing a live look at both the NASA KSC radar and weather station data, as well as the Space Force's side, continuing to monitor the blinking hail light is turned off, but they're continuing to monitor those weather situations all the way up to 30,000 feet, as you can see on the right side of your screen. It's been raining here on the Space Coast all afternoon and evening, and we're hoping that it'll clear off, that we can see a successful launch attempt here tonight. Tonight's Falcon 9 is launching from Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. If you want to learn more about that, you can head on over to tlpnetwork.com. That's where we have all of our detailed mission briefings. You can follow along with those. With today's changes to timeline, we are trying to keep that mission briefing updated with the new T0s. But today's booster 1062, going for its 14th flight. It's going to be SpaceX's fourth booster to attempt a 14th flight. We've got the drone ship, just read the instructions, stationed offshore, ready to recover, as well as an attempt to recover today's fairings. Today's launch window opened at 11:25 local times, running through 1:32 a.m. So as I was saying, now currently targeting 12:45 a.m. So they only have about 45 minutes left that they can actually delay tonight. Keep in mind, we do have to have a go for propellant load. That occurs at the T-minus 38-minute mark. So at this point, we are about 15 minutes or so away from expecting to hear that. We'll be keeping an eye for the mission nets to go live. That'll be a good sign that they are going to at least attempt a propellant loading here this evening, so keeping a close eye on that. As always, if you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the Launchpad, and we'll work on answering those. If you're just joining us on YouTube, we invite you to also join us over on Twitter. We're hosting our first The Launchpad Twitter space, TLPN_official, and we invite you to join us and share that out. Something new we're going to be trying out for the next few launches, hosting some of these pre-launch Twitter spaces as we continue to expand, because we believe that space is better together and we want it to be accessible to everyone where they are. So excited to have you all here today. That one guy, good to see you. See lots of people joining in the chat. As always, take a moment, let us know in the chat where you're watching from. I know we got people from all over the world tuning in. We've got Michigan in the chat. We've got SpaceX. We've got Florida. We've got Malawi. I know we've got Scotland as well. It's great to have you all with us here. Still 8 minutes for till it's morning here, but this morning we'll say that as it is. Catching up on some of the questions in the chat. Ricky is asking, does this satellite have electric propulsion? That's a great question. So we'll take a moment and dive into everything we know about Arabsat 7B or BADR-8. The Arabsat 7B satellite is the first launch of Arabsat's 7th generation satellites in contract with the Airbus Defence and Space. It's a state-of-the-art Airbus Eurosat Neo satellite bus The bus that it's developed on is what will be the core of the satellite and provides the satellite its power, propulsion, and other essential elements to actually be a functional satellite. It's expected to last 15 years and provides the payloads on board 25 kilowatts of power. It does have 2 solar arrays on it, and that's what they're launching. BADR-8 will be positioned at the 26-degree longitude line. This will enable it to enable coverage in Central Africa, Europe, and the Middle East to replace the BADR-7 satellite launched in 2015. On board, BADR-8 is a massive satellite transponder for satellite TV broadcasting, satellite telecommunications, and information exchanging services for the Q-band, C-band. BADR-8 will respond to the increasing demand for Airspace's hotspot region in their 26-degree longitude mark, and it will take between 4 and 5 months for the electric propulsion system to move it to its designated orbit. So yes, Ricky, it does have an electric propulsion system. Timothy's joining us from Montgomery, Alabama. We got Giles in Kansas City. Great to see you. We got Thomas in Leicester. Hope I said that right. If not, I apologize. It's early. Well, it's technically still late, but it's early. We're glad to have you here. If you're just joining us, though, welcome here to the Launchpad on YouTube and Twitter. Answering your questions as we continue to count down now just over 50 minutes and counting to the current targeted T0 for today's launch. SpaceX currently targeting 12:45 a.m. Eastern Time as teams continue to monitor the weather above the Space Coast. They're keeping an eye on, we saw earlier them looking on the radar at the Anvil clouds right there on your screen again, watching for Anvil cloud rule, as well as watching for the lightning conditions. We are currently under a Phase 1 lightning watch. There's no lightning warnings in effect at this time, but they are keeping a close eye on that. Catching up on the chat. If you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the Launchpad, and we'll work on answering those. Trying out some new things this evening. We'll patch in SpaceX Mission Control once they go live. We hope to hear the mission control nets come on in about 10 minutes. That'll be a good sign that they're going to go for propellant loading. But we've been seeing them continue to push the timeline for flight. Every about 15 to 20 minutes, we've been getting an update as they continue to push later into today's launch window. See, Matt, now I don't know if you're trying to get me in trouble saying, like, Lester. And I'm like, I don't know. I'll have to let the UK guy tell me in the chat how to say that one. Trevor's watching from Australia. Great to see you. Thanks for being here. And we've got Tom in Mo. I'm thinking that's Montana. I believe that's Montana. Or Missouri. One of the two. Tyler from San Diego is asking, what is the data range of the optical equipment on the satellite type of optical link? That is a very intense question for 12 in the morning. And honestly, I do not believe that is something that has been released by Arabsat or Airbus in the development of this satellite. I believe most of that would be kept close to home. Internally, it is exchanging services in Q-band and C-band, according to them, but we don't have much more specific information than that. But thanks for sending that in, Tyler. Appreciate it. Mule Skinner, thanks so much for that super chat. Appreciate it. If you're just joining us, welcome. We are now T-minus 47 minutes, 30 seconds and counting until the current targeted T0 for the launch of BADR-8 or Arabsat 7B. Launching from Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. SpaceX continues to monitor the weather. We're waiting for any further updates. We've had 3 or 4 pushbacks on the clock so far this evening, but currently they are targeting 12:45 a.m. Eastern Time, but they have confirmed that they are continuing to monitor the weather as we go through the countdown. Ring Spaceflight's asking, what do you personally think the probability of launch today is? Thanks for sending that in on Twitter. Appreciate it. I believe we were at a 25% chance of go. We had a 75% chance of violation as of the last weather report that I saw. So, 1 in 4 based on that. SpaceX, especially on customer missions, will always put safety as priority 1, which they'll do on any mission. But of course, when there's a customer on board, you're always a little bit even more careful because it's not just another batch of Starlinks. So they'll, of course, put that safety first. If they need to, they can delay a day or two and go for another launch attempt. But we'll wait and see. But that's a great question. Appreciate you sending that in, Ring Spaceflight. If you are just joining us on YouTube, though, welcome. Here at the Launchpad, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow because we believe that space is better together. And we are also live currently on Twitter, answering your guys' comments and questions on both, doing kind of a pre-launch preview on the Twitter as a Twitter space. So we invite you to join us for that as well. We'll get all the content creator stuff out of the way. It is, of course, launch day. So if you use promo code launch day, you can get 10% off of everything on the launchpad.store. Global shipping is available there. I appreciate your guys' support in having that. Hey Joe, how's it going? Just got home, scrub or go? I mean, technically right now we are go, but we're watching for that weather to possibly slip more on your screen. If you're watching on YouTube, we are keeping a close eye on the actual weather all the way up to 30,000 feet. On the right is the view of the Space Force. The hail icon has stopped blinking, so that's a great sign. And on the screen right now, there's no lightning detected in that 10-mile range around it. So that's a good sign as well. So things are starting to point towards good. We are in a Phase 1 lightning watch, but that's okay. We can launch in that. So we'll be keeping a closer eye on the weather as we continue. We expect to hear from SpaceX in the next 6 minutes or so if the mission control nets will go live, and they'll give a go, no go for prop load. If they don't, we'll expect to have another update of a delay. Today's launch window runs till 1:32 a.m. local time, so we are keeping a close eye on the time left in today's window as well. Now, this isn't the only launch. Now that it is May 24th, that we can say is happening today, our teams are also counting down to the launch of NextSat 2 and Snipe on the Nuri rocket out of South Korea. We also have the launch of Progress MS-23 launching from Russia up to the International Space Station, launching today as well. So it's going to be a busy launch day with possibly up to 3 launches from 3 different countries with 3 different rockets. Tomorrow we have the launch of Electron, and we have a launch attempt of Virgin Galactic's Spaceship 2. And then we have another launch out of India coming up on May 29th. So a very busy end to the month here. A couple other Russia and China launches in there as well, but a rather slow month May has turned out to be, but trying to fill it in right there at the very, very end. If you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the Launchpad or commenting on the Twitter space, and we'll work on answering those live as we continue through today's countdown to launch. Now just under 43 minutes and counting to the current T0. All right, keeping a close eye for any more updates from SpaceX as we continue here, or we'll see if the mission control nets end up going live. Once they do, we will patch those in to listen in to the go, no go for prop load. Should we be able to see that happen? Running through a little bit of today's timeline of what we're expecting. Should we see liftoff here today? Today's booster will be going for its 14th mission, the fourth ever Falcon 9 to attempt to do so. Booster 1062 having previously supported multiple GPS missions, Inspiration 4, Axiom 1, a whole bunch of Starlinks, as well as one of the OneWebs and a Nilesat launch. So a well-proven booster that has flown quite a lifetime since November 2020. And excited to see that continue to become towards a flight leader. That booster is going to launch from Slick 40, hopefully in 41.5 minutes. It'll touch down 8 minutes 44 seconds into flight, and Arabsat BADR-8 will deploy 37 minutes 13 seconds into flight. So we do plan on staying live throughout that timeline. Should everything proceed nominally with actually an attempt of launch happening here today. Turner's asking any evidence of preparation for pellet load. Nothing that we're seeing right now. We are about 14 miles from the pad. With the weather, we're not able to walk outside and see the pad like we normally would. It was our plan to actually set up and do a live broadcast from the riverside this evening, but with the current weather, we've decided to just do it in the studio. But we are working on saying that we are going to work on having those live pad cameras up for the duration of propellant load starting in the very near future. Now, we should be about 2 minutes away from hearing if we do have a for propellant loading on the first and second stage of tonight's Falcon 9. If we don't have an update on the mission control nets or from SpaceX here in the next few minutes, we highly will be waiting for that, as we do expect that to occur one way or another, whether they're going for an attempt tonight or whether they are scrubbing, delaying, or possibly even scrubbing for the evening. No mission control nets published as of yet. They do normally try to get those up prior to the go, no go for prop load. But we'll continue to keep a close eye on that here over the next few minutes. As I said, if you guys have questions, you can keep sending those in the chat. Just make sure you're tagging us at the launch pad so we can answer those live, see them coming in. It can be about tonight's launch, it can be about space in general. It was a big day. Virgin Orbit selling its assets to Rocket Lab, Stratolaunch, and Vast Launcher. A very big announcement that we did not expect to see coming today, but them selling off about $38 million dollars in their assets, including Cosmic Girl, their plane. No word on the 2 new planes that they had on order, what will happen with those, but they have sold their building facility in California. Rocket Lab very excitingly put out a press release just a few hours ago saying Neutron's development is expanding, and they are going to use that new facility in California to for Neutron development. We do have an updated T0 from SpaceX. They are continuing to just push that clock a little more each time they can. We are now targeting 12:55 a.m. Local time, so another delay of 10 minutes, and I expect this is what we might be seeing happen for the rest of today's launch window as we continue for today's launch attempt. Resetting that clock now, T-minus 47 minutes, 47 seconds, and counting. And we'll wait for more updates from SpaceX. That gives them another 10 minutes to give a go for prop load, and that's what we'll be waiting to have here as well. Turner Rent says they're on site. Turner, are you on the press site or where are you guys set up? River, what is the mission? They will be launching Arabsat 7B, also known as BADR-8, which is will be launching into a geostationary orbit over Europe, and it is a satellite that will live in a geostationary, will travel through a geostationary for orbit. It's a satellite that has electric propulsion, and it will offer coverage for Central Africa, Europe, and the Middle East with a massive satellite transponder for satellite TV broadcasting, satellite telecommunications, and information exchanging services in the Q band and the C band, and that's coming from Arabsat themselves. Turn around the viewing area. Awesome. That'll be, maybe we will see you around at one of these launches. Jay, who's counting the delays tonight? We must be well, we're not at 20 just yet. But that's definitely number 5 or 6 or 7. We'll have to wait and see how many we get tonight before hopefully we see a launch, but there's always the risk that we have that dreaded S word happen around a launch this evening. Again, if you're just joining us on YouTube, you can also join us over on Twitter. We have our live Twitter space going on. Got a few people tuning in on there. That's something new for us. Our first ever Twitter space. We figured let's do it in the middle of the night to get to learn the systems, and it's pretty great. So we're going to be looking at doing those more in the future, offering kind of a pre-launch Twitter space as well as some other Twitter space opportunities in the near future as well. And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. You're joining us for our live launch coverage of SpaceX BADR-8. We are waiting for an update from SpaceX. We've been monitoring the weather as we continue approaching the end of today's launch window at 1:32 a.m. Eastern Time. We do not have an official statement from SpaceX at this time, but the launch live stream was just hidden on YouTube. It is no longer listed on their homepage, I think because it's an old one. So we'll wait to see if they republish it. It's still available in their playlists. It's just not on their homepage anymore. So we'll wait to see. They haven't updated that. Continuing now, T-minus 39 minutes, 30 seconds, and counting till the current T0. They are targeting 12:55 a.m. Eastern Time, but we are continuing to monitor the weather on our YouTube stream on the launch pad. On YouTube, you can see the live weather from both the KSC side and the Space Force on your screen. Continuing to track that weather up to 30,000 feet, hoping for a clearing. We are in a Phase 1 lightning watch, which is okay. We can launch with that. But winds are all green, so that's good. And there's no lightning currently detected within that 10-mile zone. So that's also a good sign as we continue towards the count. In the next, expecting to have either an update from SpaceX, or we expect to have another delay announced, as this is at T-minus 38 minutes when the launch director gives his or her go or no go for propellant loading. This is when we saw the last delay announced was about 10 minutes ago, so we'll wait to see if we have another one at this time. Amazingly, right now, the conditions here on the Space Coast, we're about 14 miles from the pad. We just got some rain. Winds are really light, and it's looking good. We haven't heard any thunder since late this afternoon, so continuing well, at least based on our conditions. But of course, they're looking at conditions well into the higher altitudes than we can see and experience from where we are here. Which you can see there's a lot of factors that they monitor on your screen if you're watching on YouTube. If it's your first time joining us on YouTube or Twitter, make sure that you give us a follow or a subscribe here at the Launchpad. It's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together, and we're glad to have you all joining us here, trying out something new on Twitter, trying out the Twitter Space idea for launches, doing kind of like pre-launch preview ideas and answering some questions there while we're also live on YouTube. Figured we'd try it on one of these middle of the night ones to see how it goes and get some ideas what can do in the future. We are now past that time when we would expect to hear a go, no go for propellant loading. So we'll hopefully have an update here in the near future. Hearing from Turner, who's actually down just off the Cape Canaveral, saying just a light rain, almost nothing. It's dropping off for it, but we have not seen any LOX vapors yet. We won't see anything just yet. The propellant loading, if they did receive a go just a minute ago, won't begin flowing until T-minus 35 minutes. That's when the RP1 and liquid oxygen will both begin flowing into the first stage of the Falcon 9. So just about 90 seconds from now is when we would expect to have that flowing. So we'll wait for any sort of updates from those on site or from SpaceX on how things are continuing in tonight's count, if we will have an attempt here this evening. If you want to know more about today's mission, as always, you can head on over tlpnetwork.com. That's where we have our launch control with our mission briefings, working on making those more and more detailed. And if you're interested in joining the TLP crew and helping us with those mission briefings, you can head on over to the About page, send in one of those one of our TLP crew forms and reaching out to us, and we'd be excited to welcome some of you on the team as we continue to try to bring you the best possible coverage of everything space, because we believe that space is better together. Giles saying, I just assume it's always raining in Florida at some point. It's generally valid. Yeah, you can basically, if it's raining where you are, walk 5 feet in one of the directions, and it's probably not raining, generally speaking, at least during this time of year. We do not have an update from SpaceX as of yet. And doing another refresh here, we have no mission net comms either. So we are now into that time. About 10 seconds from now is when we should have the RP-1 and liquid oxygen begin flowing onto Falcon 9 for today's launch attempt. River, the next Starship launch is the one I would want to see live. The first one was pretty good. If it had launched Monday, I would have had a much better view than we did on the Thursday. Thursday was a lot hazier, but was still incredible to hear it and see it and feel it. It was quite the launch to see. So appreciate SpaceX inviting us out as media for the first IFT there just over a month ago. I'm excited to be back out in a few months for the next IFT launch attempt. Corner of that page. Yeah, it was incredibly clear. It was truly incredibly clear. Continuing to wait to see if we do get any updates from SpaceX at all as we continue through this count. Now 33 minutes, 30 seconds and counting to the current T0 SpaceX had said, which was 12:55 a.m. Eastern Time. We have not seen anything as of yet. As we go through the timeline, we'll be continuing to monitor it as we normally would until we've had an update from someone on site or from SpaceX specifically on where they're at in today's countdown. If you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad. We'll work on answering those live as we continue to wait for more updates on how today's launch attempt is going. Now approximately 32.5 minutes away from the current targeted T0. And just like that, we now get another update from the field, now targeting 1:10 a.m. Eastern Time. So another slip of 15 minutes. We are now targeting 1:10 a.m. local time. This is what I would expect to be the second last slip if they are going to here today. The window closes at 1:32 a.m. Eastern time. So if they are going for an attempt, they'll be able to target that very last moment of the window is 1:32, but at this time they are now targeting 1:10 a.m. Denise, thanks, Zach, for hosting live for Late Night Launch. Absolutely appreciate you being here. We're attempting to get more and more of these late night ones hosted with full hosting rather than some of the more minor hosting that we've done in the past, as we do want to be able to provide that coverage. And depending if weather was good tonight, we were going to head on out and actually have our own live pad shot, but we don't have all the equipment just yet to be out in the rain. We're hoping to get the rest of that equipment this week, thanks to your guys' generous support through Patreon and being members on YouTube. That all goes into upgrading that equipment. There is a backup window for tomorrow. That is correct. So if we do not have a clear attempt today, we can try again tomorrow. Turner's saying it is raining a bit more again here. There, so Turner, definitely make sure you're being safe. That's probably a good call, Turner. If you don't see propellant load in the next 10 minutes, probably a good call that you don't need to risk getting sick. You can head on in and get warm somewhere there. Well, not even warm, get dry. And go for another attempt, and maybe we will see you out there. Depending on the weather is, we might see if we can head on out and go from there. Seeing that we haven't had another update saying the countdown clock has now held. This is from people on site. Also seeing that William Harwood is reporting that the countdown has held. So we are keeping an eye out for an update on what the current plan is for today's launch attempt, but it does sound and kind of point like that it is going to be that dreaded S word this evening. But with it being a customer satellite, I mean, every launch you want it to be safe, but it being a customer satellite, there is always making sure it is even safer than normal. And we're glad to have you joining us here as we continue throughout this very on and off live stream today, basically just reporting where the current clock is. But we're glad to have you all with us here this evening. If it's your first time, though, make sure you're following us over on Twitter, TLPN_official, links in the description and in the chat there. We'll be hosting a lot more Launchpad Spaces and Twitter exclusive content, so stay tuned for that. And if you're on Twitter, make sure you're following us and subscribed on YouTube, just YouTube The Launchpad. Also, consider joining us over on our TLP Discord. It's free to join, and of course, it is launch day, so use promo code LAUNCHDAY to get 10% off of everything over on the TLP shop. We would invite you to join us for that. But we are keeping an eye out, waiting for an update from SpaceX on what their plans are for this evening. We had heard that the clocks were targeting a new T0 of 1:10, and then just a couple minutes ago, William Harwood of CBS says the clock has held. So we're waiting to have any more updates from SpaceX on what the current status is for it. Turner, were you out by the bleachers? Was that where you guys were watching from? If you're still in the chat, just let us know. Join us. If you're on the Discord, you can drop us a message there as well. And we have another new launch time of 1:22 a.m. We are continuing through this morning of every 10 minutes getting new T0s. We entered a brief hold, and now we are targeting 1:22 a.m. They really want to get Arabsat 7B BADR-8 off the ground. So we are now T-minus 52 minutes and counting. Keep pushing towards that T-minus 38-minute mark. That is where the launch director has to give their go or no go for propellant loading, and that is what we are keeping an eye on here today. So Turner, if you're still here, they're still trying. They are still trying, but we'll wait to see if the weather can actually hold here bright and early this morning. Looking on the weather that you can see on your screen, it looks pretty decent. There is some definite rain passing over the cone of the launch. Over the pad, you can see on the right side of your screen that kind of white highlighted portion. That's the radar passing over the pad, directly coming to us from the Space Force. We do have an update from SpaceX here, so we're going to read this here. Team is resetting the countdown clock to the end of the launch window due to weather, now targeting 1:22 a.m. Eastern Time for liftoff. So with that, they are now targeting the end of the window. We had 1:32 as the end of it. Sounds like the window might close a little bit earlier than we had in our data. So 1:22 a.m. SpaceX now targeting the end of the launch window for today's attempt. So if at any point we were to see a hold, we will be done for this evening. But SpaceX going for one more attempt here. We are now 51 minutes and counting. If you guys have any questions, you can send those in the chat, and we'll be answering those live. Just take us at the launch pad, and we'll work on answering those to the best of our ability. Just looking up the weather forecast here for tomorrow to take a look on what we're seeing for the weather details. Bear with me one quick moment here. Today, launch day, we had a 70% chance of violation at the opening of the window, going down to 50% chance of violation at the end of the window. That's why you're seeing them continuing to push this clock towards the end of the window. The concerns were the cumulus cloud rule, the anvil cloud rule, and the surface electric fields rule. Tomorrow, we have a 75% chance of violation for the entire launch window. Again, the same risks and concerns: cumulus cloud rule, surface electric fields rule, and the anvil cloud rule. So we're going to continue to monitor that situation. Should we need a further forecast, the Space Force will release one as required. But looking like we're just in that season. They said that last week with Axiom 2. We're in that season of having these rainstorms pass through, and you just hope that they clear out in the afternoon, evening, and overnight. But it is something that this is that season. We have about 3 months of this that we have to get through, that generally the weather does a lot of these kind of scrubs or delays into the window. So we'll be hoping that we have an update here sooner than later to give us all the gift of time of going to sleep, because there are a number of other launches happening here today. It is Wednesday, May 24th, 2023. We have the launch of NextSat-2 and Snipe launching on a Nuri rocket out of South Korea in just a few hours. We also have the launch of Progress MS-23 launching out of Russia and from Kazakhstan up to the International Space Station. Excuse me. Denise, always great to be here, Zach. It's more fun when you host. Very much appreciate it. I appreciate that, Denise. It's a late night, but I'm glad I'm here, and it's great having you guys in the chat as well. We're working to get the Space Coast studio up, so my hope is by the end of this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, we will be able to give our members kind of a little tour of the new studio, and we'll be hosting launches and news updates and stuff from the mostly finished studio, other than a few tweaks that we'll do over the coming weeks by the end of this weekend. So we're excited to do that. And that, again, is thanks to your guys' generous support through the Starship launch timeline that we were able to do these upgrades and set up the very first TLP Space Coast studio. We're so appreciative of that. I'm excited to expand out and bring you even better coverage of everything here on the Space Coast, as well as from around the world as well. Now, T-minus 47 minutes, 23 seconds and counting. We're about 10 minutes away, less than 10 minutes from that launch director giving a go, no-go for propellant loading, and that is what will give us a clue on how things are looking for today and whether we will actually have a launch attempt happen early this morning. Apollo, I wish you best of luck with your finals. I do need them to launch too, but we wish you all the best with your finals. Get some sleep. You can always watch the replay, but there's only one attempt at those finals, and we wish you the best of luck there. The Progress launch is a resupply to the International Space Station, taking up cargo and research and science and everything. We see this happen every few months out at Kazakhstan. So we'll be excited to see another Soyuz launch carrying that progress up to the ISS. Busy time at the ISS as the AX-2 private crew is on board. So you're going to have 11 people on station and a progress craft arriving with new supplies. So it's going to be a very busy time on board station. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some of the non-urgent offload of that progress craft wait until after the AX-2 crew has departed. But then, just a few weeks from now, we also have the launch of the SpaceX cargo resupply, CRS-28. So 2 resupplies in a matter of a couple of weeks up at the International Space Station. Waffles asking, is there a launch date for Crew 7? Not yet. We just know that they're targeting the later this fall. So no confirmation as of yet. Catching up, seeing if we have any more updates from SpaceX on how weather is continuing, whether we'll have an attempt here. About 5 minutes away from that go, no go for propellant loading. Waiting to see if we get an update. And a couple more questions coming in there. D3K Tonic asking any updates if CRS-28 will land at LZ-1 or on a drone ship. We haven't had an update on that just yet. They're reviewing the data from AX2, and we'll hopefully have an update that here in the near future. So it'll be a little bit till we get that update, but only a couple ways away from launch, so we'll keep an eye out for that. Waffle, considering that the name Atlas has been around for so long and has so much history, is there a reason why the next Atlas is going to be called Vulcan instead of Atlas V1? That's the name of a new rocket. So we had Delta 4 Medium, Delta 4 Heavy. We've had Atlas, which came in many variations, and now we have Vulcan. Vulcan is a new rocket. Just like we have Falcon 9 and we have Falcon Heavy, but we had Falcon 1. This is a normal thing that we've seen across the industry, where you have variations and eras of rockets. Astra with Rocket 3, and then Astra with Rocket 4. As well, Soyuz is one of the really only ones that has ever held a name for as long as it has. So there is no reason to call it an Atlas, since it is not an Atlas launch vehicle. It is the best of Atlas, the best of Delta 4, Delta 2, Delta 4 Heavy, with a whole bunch of new stuff all added in together. And that is why it is a new launch vehicle. We should be 1 minute away from that go, no-go for propellant loading. Taking a look if we have some updates here from SpaceX. They have started mission control audio. So, in good old-fashioned SpaceX fashion, they are going to run the clock this evening. Something that I'm not sure we were all fully hoping they were going to do. But they are running the clock tonight, and we'll be keeping a listen in here onto the mission control audio as we continue through the countdown here this evening. And we do have that net is now patched in, so anything they say we will hear together as we continue now. 38 minutes 10 seconds and counting in today's launch window.
Venting tanks for the start of propellant load.
Past that countdown mark, so we should be hearing that go, no-go for prop load any moment now. That one guy, are they really going to run it to T0 before scrubbing? It looks like it, that one guy. And they might have said it just as we were setting it up, but it does look like they are go for prop load, and they are going to go for a launch attempt here this evening as we continue now at T-minus 36 minutes, 15 seconds, and counting until launch of Arabsat BADR-8 from Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. We are continuing to monitor the weather conditions, and once SpaceX goes live with their normal feed, we will, of course, patch that in as we continue throughout tonight's countdown. We're answering your guys' comments and questions in the chat. You can send those in by tagging us at the launch pad. Turner, woohoo, turning it around on your way back. Hopefully you didn't get too far away, Turner, there. And Fair warning, it is very possible they are running the clock, just hoping they can thread the weather. So, fair warning, you might get all the way back there and still not be able to
Launch auto
watch a
sequence has
launch.
started.
And there we go. RP1 load has begun on the Falcon 9 rocket. We have launch auto sequence has started. They are pressing the fuel tanks. Wolf will either SpaceX is optimistic or they know a little more about the weather. I would say it's neither. They are optimistic they can thread the weather. SpaceX will always take every opportunity to launch. They'll always put safety first, but they can fuel a rocket, run it down to basically T0, and if they need to, at that point, that's when they will scrub. But they would rather go all the way down than wait. And have not had a launch attempt at all when they could have done so. If you are just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. We are at T minus 29 minutes, 5 seconds and counting until launch of SpaceX Arabsat 7B BADR-8, launching from Lake, Florida at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. If you're joining us on Twitter, thank you for joining us on our first launch Twitter Space. We're going to be attempting these and trying out some different ideas we have for pre-launch Twitter Spaces. I invite you now to come on over to YouTube and join us for our full launch coverage. Search the Launchpad on YouTube. We hope that you'll join us there, but that's going to wrap up our Twitter Space for the launch attempt of SpaceX Arabsat 7B BADR-8. We hope you'll join us on YouTube and join us next time for another Launchpad Twitter Space. We'll see you next time. If you're here on YouTube, you can still send in your comments and questions by tagging us at the launch pad, and we'll be answering those live as we continue through today's countdown time. We are listening in to the mission control nets as we continue through the count timeline as well. T minus 28 minutes and counting. Once SpaceX goes live, we will, of course, patch in their live feed as well, bringing you full coverage, checking in on the update on the rocket. We are expecting them to go live in about 10 minutes, and once they do, we will, of course, patch them in. Sorry about that. Hi, dear Jimmy. Nope, knew it was on. We appreciate it.
LD, this is MM. Spacecraft is on internal power.
LD copies, spacecraft on internal power.
Stage 2, fuel load complete.
And if you're just joining us, welcome here to the launch pad. We are at T-minus 16 minutes, 30 seconds and counting until launch of Arabsat 7B BADR-8 from Slick 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. SpaceX is ready to go live with today's launch attempt. Fair warning, it is highly likely that today's launch is able to see a last-minute hold due to weather. We have seen them do this many times before where they have run the clock, and we're somewhat expecting that might be what they are trying to do today, but they are well into propellant loading. They are running the clock to the end of today's launch window. If for any reason we were to see a delay today, their next launch attempt at the earliest would be tomorrow. Weather conditions tomorrow, 75% chance of violation, identical to today. Today's forecast was 75% violation at the beginning of the window, decreasing to 50% chance of violation for the end of the window. And that's why we've been seeing them go for an attempt here today for their customer, Arabsat. As always, if you guys have questions throughout today's stream, you can send those in the chat by tagging us at the launch pad, and we'll work on answering those live to the best of our ability. Payload deployment expected just over 30 minutes after launch, so we will, of course, be staying live throughout that payload deployment. Should SpaceX stay live, so we hopefully will have live views of payload deployment, which we normally do if it is a customer's satellite. Scott is saying, I'm 14 miles away. The weather is crap. It's been raining here. We're about 14 miles from the pad as well, up in Titusville at our Space Coast studio. It's been raining all afternoon and evening, and it's continuing to now. They can launch in rain. That is something that they are able to do. Some rockets are not able to. That is a weather restriction, but SpaceX is able to launch in rain. The biggest issue is the types of clouds that the rocket will have to fly through, as well as any risk of lightning. As you can see, SpaceX is getting ready to go live here, so of course we will listen in to Mission Control for an update on the rocket, the payload, and of course the weather. If it's your first time here, though, make sure you subscribe so you never miss another live launch coverage, docking, undocking, or return to Earth. We've got many launches coming your way in the next week, and of course we have some exclusive interviews and space news updates. It is launch day, so use promo code LAUNCHDAY to get 10% off everything at the Launchpad store, thelaunchpad.store, and join our awesome space community on our Discord, which is free to join because space is better together. Let's listen into SpaceX Mission Control for an update as we continue to count down to launch of Arabsat 6B.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the webcast for the Arabsat BADR-8 mission. Today's launch will mark SpaceX's 35th launch of the year and 234th overall mission to date. My name is Zachary Lupin, and I'm an avionics reliability engineer here at the Arabsat BADR-8 mission. Today's launch will mark SpaceX's 35th launch of the year and 234th overall mission to date. My name is Zachary Lupin, and I'm an avionics reliability engineer here at SpaceX, joining you from our headquarters in Hawthorne, California. I'll be your host as we follow Falcon 9 taking the Arabsat BADR-8 payload to geostationary orbit from Florida's Space Launch Complex 40. Now, as you may have guessed by the name of the mission, our customer today is Arabsat. Arabsat is a satellite operator and leading satellite services provider carrying over 650 TV channels, 245 radio stations, and pay TV networks in more than 60 countries. The payload on board our second stage today, BADR-8, was built by Airbus and will provide connectivity over Europe, the Middle East, Africa, and Central Asia, and features Airbus's innovative space demonstrator Teleo to provide space-to-ground optical communications at gigabit speeds. Today's launch marks SpaceX's second launch with Arabsat, most recently having launched Arabsat 6A on our Falcon Heavy vehicle in 2019. And we'll have more information from our customer a little bit later in the webcast. At T-minus 11 minutes and 52 seconds, the vehicle and spacecraft are healthy, and while range is ready to support, weather is currently a watch item due to some nearby thunderstorms, but our teams will continue to monitor up until T0. If for some reason we don't launch today, we do have a backup opportunity tomorrow at 1:22 a.m. Eastern Time. On your screen is a live view of our two-stage Falcon 9 rocket that stands at about 230 feet tall. Now, starting from the very top of the rocket, we have the payload fairing, which is about 40 feet tall and 17 feet in diameter. Now, to put that size into perspective, an average fire truck is about 40 feet long and 12 feet wide, so a fire truck would fit very comfortably inside of the payload fairing. The fairing's job is to protect the payload from aerothermal loads, heating, and contamination during ascent. And both fairing halves supporting today's mission are flight proven, with one half flying for its 8th time and the other flying for its 9th. Now, once we reach the vacuum of space, we will jettison the fairing as the second stage will continue on its journey to orbit. And after separation from the second stage, both fairing halves will be recovered again with the help of our recovery vessel, Bob. Now, below the payload fairing is the second stage, which is responsible for taking the Arabsat payload to its drop-off orbit in space. Not only does SpaceX's second stage look similar to the first stage, which is the larger stage below, it also has the same diameter, uses the same metal in its tanks, has the same onboard computer, uses the same propellants, and has nearly the same engine. And this allows us to use similar tooling, design, and systems to essentially build 2 rockets that are more reliable. Now, the first and second stages are connected by the interstage, which has pneumatic pushers that allow stage separation during flight. The interstage also houses the 10th engine connected to the second stage, and that is called the Merlin Vacuum Engine, or MVAC engine. The bottom 2/3 of the Falcon 9 vehicle is the first stage and is the primary part of the rocket that gets reused multiple times. On the very bottom of the first stage are the 9 Merlin M1D engines that accelerate the vehicle through the Earth's atmosphere and into various orbits in space. Now, the first stage supporting today's mission is no stranger to space travel and is flying for its 14th time, having previously supported GPS-3, Space Vehicle 4 and 5, Inspiration 4, Axiom 1, Nilesat 301, OneWeb Launch 17, and 7 Starlink missions. For today's launch, we will be attempting to recover the booster using our drone ship Just Read the Instructions, which is currently stationed in the Atlantic Ocean. Now, with liftoff currently set at 1:22 a.m. Eastern Time, here are a few words from the President and CEO of Arabsat.
Ladies and gentlemen, greetings and welcome to the Arabsat BADR-8 satellite launch. I'm thrilled to be here today to celebrate this momentous occasion with all of you. I'd like to express my gratitude to Airbus, our satellite manufacturer, for providing us with the latest technology and expertise, and for our standing relationship that has spanned over 25 years. Their contribution has been crucial to the success of this project, and we couldn't have done it without them. I would like to thank SpaceX for their valuable contribution to this project. Their expertise in launch services has been instrumental in bringing the BADR-8 satellite to its designated orbit today. And we are honored to have them as our partners. The BADR-8 satellite is a state-of-the-art addition to Arabsat orbital position 26 degrees east. It offers a wide range of services for satellite communications, television broadcasting, and information exchange in C and Ku frequency bands. BADR-8 will be joining our BADR satellite network at Arabsat 26 East hotspot and bringing advanced technologies and extended coverage with multiple bands to enable broadcasting partners to get their content to their audience in MENA, Central Asia, and North and West Africa effectively. This new satellite enhances our capabilities and capacities to meet the modern and advanced solutions our customers expect. And we are excited about the opportunities that it will bring. Our leading role in the Middle East and North Africa regions for satellite broadcasting and communications will also be strengthened. The launch is one of Arabsat's most strategic projects, making significant milestones for our organization and the Arab world. This launch is one of Arabsat's most strategic projects, making a significant milestone for our organization and the Arab world. We are proud of our achievements, and we look forward to continuing to provide innovative and reliable satellite solutions to our customers. Thank you for joining us to this journey, and we are excited about what the future holds for Arabsat and our partners.
Today's launch actually marks SpaceX's 125th launch from the pad you see on your screen.
Stage 1, fuel load complete.
Located at the north end of Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, Space Launch Complex 40, also referred to as Slick 40, previously supported Titan launches by the U.S. Air Force between 1965 to 2005. The launch complex was then leased to SpaceX in 2007, and since then, we've had 189 total launches from Florida, with 124 of those launches lifting off from Pad 40. And Slick 40 is indeed home to a handful of SpaceX firsts. From this pad, we've seen the first flight of Falcon 9 and Dragon, the initial COTS, or Commercial Orbital Transportation Services flights that began in December 2010, the beginning of the Commercial Resupply Services, or CRS flights, with CRS-1 having flown in October 2012, and even the first flights of the landing legs and grid fins all happened from Space Launch Complex 40 in December of 2015. Now, 124 missions later, and riding on the coattails of the most recent Axiom 2 mission that launched just a few days ago, SpaceX is planning on building a crew tower at Slick 40 to be able to launch future crew and cargo from this pad in addition to 39A. And this will bring us one step closer to making humanity multiplanetary. Now, at T-minus 5 minutes until liftoff, we should be seeing the transporter erector clamp arms beginning to open from beneath the fairing. Now, we should see that in about 40 seconds from now. When the clamp arms fully
pressurizing for strongback retract.
When the clamp arms fully open beneath the fairing, the TE, or transporter erector, will begin to pull away from the rocket slightly. The transporter erector is the truss structure next to the rocket that is used for rollout and to route propellants and electrical power to the vehicle in preparation for launch. And at T0, ground hydraulic systems will pull the TE even further away from Falcon 9 as it lifts off. So watch on your screen for those clamp arms that'll open just below the payload fairing there. And there you can see those clamp arms opening. Now, the first stage is connected to a launch mount at the base of the transporter erector, but the structure is hinged and will retract away from the vehicle in preparation for launch. Now, while you may hear it referred to as the strongback from the launch team, but transporter erector is also used to refer to this structure. So we should be seeing that strongback beginning to recline here momentarily. At this point in the countdown, both the first and second stages are nearly fully loaded with 1 million pounds of kerosene fuel and liquid oxygen. Both first stage and second stage should finish loading propellant about a minute.
Hold. Launch abort is running.
And as you may have heard, there was a hold called out over the nets. Give us a few moments, and we're going to check in with the team, listen in on the nets, and see if we can get some additional information to share with you. As I mentioned earlier, weather was a launch item for today's launch, and we are going to be standing down. The vehicle and payload remain in good health, so please check our social media accounts for our next launch opportunity. And as always, thank you for watching, and we hope to see everyone back here for our next attempt.
And as we said it, Turner, I hope you didn't turn around, but we have had a scrub due to weather. We expected them to run the clock, and that is what they did. Unfortunately, the weather has won. We can very quickly flip back over to the weather status board that we were on earlier, and you can see what those weather conditions currently are looking like over the pad. The lightning watch actually is lifted, but there are other weather conditions they are monitoring in its flight path that has ended today in a scrub. The next launch attempt is tomorrow. It is a 75% chance of weather violation through the entire launch window, opening at 1:22 a.m. Eastern Time, but we will wait to have more updates on that, and if we are able to bring that live broadcast to you because there's a launch attempt, we of course will. But here at the launch pad, it's our mission to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe that space is better together. And from the TLP Space Coast studio, my name's Zach, and we'll see you next time. Have a great night. Bye-bye.